Now that's something good. You totally should tune in to this episode where we explore the extraordinary in the everyday ordinary. Now that's something good.
Welcome to this episode of Now That's Something Good, the podcast where we explore the extraordinary in the everyday ordinary. Now here's your host, Sarah Good.
Hi friends, welcome back to the show. We are so thankful you are here joining with us today. Will and I are having so much fun bringing you stories each week. If you are enjoying the show, would you do us a favor and take a moment to go review and rate this episode wherever you podcast? You doing that helps us introduce something good to new people and helps us be able to keep sharing stories. Today, I'm really excited for you to hear my conversation with Matt Granados. Matt is a husband, dad, serial entrepreneur, speaker, businessman, international best-selling author, and much more. His passion to help others live their life to the fullest and to reach their goals is contagious. So join with us in this conversation with Matt Granados. Here we go. Hey guys, I am here today with my friend Matt. Matt, you want to say hello?
Hey everybody, excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really
excited. Beautiful
excited.
Studio.
Yeah. Everybody always says that. We love it. Well, I'm really glad that you're joining with us. Matt has quite the story. Your business is incredible, and I cannot wait for people to hear what you're going to share with us today. But I feel like it's important to note, before I even let you introduce yourself, I feel like people need to know you're a very fast talker, and I'm a really fast talker, and we were just laughing about this. Do you want to say anything about that?
You'll hear an amazing ability that if either one of us takes a breath, the other one can fit a full sentence in that breath.
I love it. I love it. So I guess what we're saying is just dial in your ears.
Yep.
Listen quick. Maybe don't listen to this one any faster than you normally would, or you might not be able to keep up.
Well, and most whatever platform you're listening to, you can listen on half speed. So we might actually be normal if they were to go the opposite way.
We won't sound like we're slowed down. We'll just, I like it. Well, Matt, tell us who you are. Tell us about your family and what your day job is.
Cool. So Matt Granados is the name I go by.
Okay.
Wife, Maria. Daughter, Natalie. Son, Zach. Fortunately, we all have the same last name.
Okay.
But day job right now, I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur, and I say that as almost not necessarily a negative, but I think a lot of people love that concept of wanting to be an entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur. And I tell people it takes a weird breed. And again, I don't mean that in a positive way. I mean, our life is crazy on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So I say it's almost like a curse of being an entrepreneur because there's always opportunity. There's always a chance to grow. So our current company, right? We have a couple companies, but the ones that we're most excited about right now is called LifePulse.
Okay.
And it's a consulting company. The best way I can describe it is asking people who are listening, just think about that time that you got lost doing something you love to do, whatever hobby that is. And then what we do is we come into companies and make their job that task. So we're able to connect it with them, and we've seen some great results. We've seen some lives changed, and we've seen some people's eyes open up in ways that we've never expected. So that's who we are. We're originally from Philadelphia, lived in Atlanta for about a decade. Realized that raising kids without family is tough, so decided to move to St. Louis.
Okay.
But that's where my wife's from.
Okay. So you grew up in Philadelphia. I don't know how I didn't know that before.
I try to keep that hidden.
You kind of...
No, I'm totally joking. I love Philly. It's... I grew up in outside of Philly, right? It's the type of thing where like I said, I'm from Philly, and someone's like, "Oh, what part?" And I'm like, "Oh, are you from there?" Okay, I'm from the suburbs. Like I'm not really from the city.
Yeah.
Went to Penn State. After that, started a business in Atlanta, and that's what triggered the South.
Yeah.
Moved down there not knowing anything, and I kind of said, "Do I either go get an MBA, spend a ton of money on that, or do I invest in this new business idea?" Invested in the new business idea, and I'll say I was very lucky.
Okay.
It worked out very well.
Well, Matt, I just want to jump right in and hear the story because I want to hear how you got to LifePulse Inc., what started that, or the catalyst maybe even for some of the other businesses that you've owned along the way. And really also, how did you get to your faith in Jesus and where does all that kind of intertwine?
Yeah, so that was later on.
Okay.
Very later on.
Okay.
So grew up where it wasn't that there was no religion or faith in my household at all. And my parents did a great job of raising us. I have 3 other siblings. And my mom grew up Jewish. My dad grew up Catholic.
Okay.
And the game plan was kind of, they'll find it when they find it.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who's found it so far.
Okay.
And that was not that long ago. So as I grew up at 15 to kind of intertwine my life with faith, because I truly feel it needs to be the same thing. It's not two separate parts. It's just who we are.
Yeah.
At 15, I started my first business.
Really?
DJing, explosive entertainment. Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. It's right before Sweet 16 started. And I started this business by working for somebody else.
Yeah.
He said, collect the balance and keep the balance yourself.
Okay.
So I got the contract. I brought it to the client. I ran the event. I talked with them beforehand. And this is at 15. And I remember I came home to my dad. I said, why did I only get $150 and he got about $2,000? And I did everything. And that was when he explained the concept of leverage.
Yeah.
And he said, look, he takes all the risk. Did you put any money into it? And I said, no, I just showed up. He said, so you got paid for your time.
Okay.
And that was the eye opener of, all right, so if I buy my own equipment, if I take the risk, do I get to keep the $2,000? He said, yeah. So I said, can I buy the equipment? He said, well, you might want to save up. So saved up, bought some equipment, started my first company at 15, right before Sweet 16, which was awesome. And then that's what I paid my way through school and started a company all through Penn State that was DJing, and realized quickly that I wanted to get into the hospitality industry.
Okay.
So
wait, hold on. Do you still DJ? Is this like a
I don't.
Can't get like? Did you have a DJ name?
I didn't really have. I mean, like people would call me Matty G just because my Matt Granados, but I never went by it.
Okay.
It wasn't anything I was super excited about. I just really enjoyed doing it. I love music. I love being with people. I like partying. All that combined
I think that is amazing.
Equals a DJ.
Okay.
So started that, went really well, got into the hospitality, graduated hotel restaurant management as my major, wanted to open a casino. That was what I wanted to do. So I wrote a letter to the person who I thought was most connected in the casino industry, Steve Wynn, who basically, if you're not familiar with Vegas, built Vegas, said, I want to get an apprenticeship with you. And I got a rejection letter back from his assistant. And I've never talked. I mean, Steve Wynn at this point, and even back then, was worth a couple $1 billion, one of the wealthiest people on the planet.
Wow.
And me as a college student, how do I actually get into that? And I got a letter back from his assistant and said, I've never dealt with a billionaire, but I've been nice to women before. I know how to see if I can get them to help move this thing along. So I started sending her flowers and chocolates and thanking her for the professionalism of responding. And eventually, I got a call asking to stop send stuff, but would I like an internship?
Wow.
So where all this came from was right at 15 when I started this little business, which was really just me and some CDs. I went to a program called Eagle University.
Okay.
So this is a very pivotal moment in my life.
Yeah.
Eagle University is a nonprofit. It still is happening. We still volunteer. Maria was the executive director for a time being. We're on the board now for it. And it brings students 15 to 24 to an on-site college campus and teaches them what I would say everything you need to know that you don't learn in school.
Wow.
Everything from finding mentors, how to set goals, how to deal with different personalities. I mean, the stuff that should be taught at schools but just isn't.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And they get to experience what it's like to be on a college campus, which for a lot of people, they have no clue what that's like.
Right,
so we call it giving them a 7-year career head start. And the pricing is super inexpensive for what we're able to get. We're able to bring in some of the top speakers from all over the world who volunteer their time for free.
Wow.
It's an amazing program. So anyway, I went when I was 15. I didn't learn anything the first time except for I thought there was 51 states because all of the Miss USAs and Miss Teen USAs, when they won, would get a scholarship to the program. So I thought there was 51 states for a while. Because DC had their own contestant. So I came home. My parents are like, do you want to go back? I was like, oh, absolutely. They're like, well, what'd you learn? And I explained the states that I learned.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't think that was the point. Let's go back. So I went back, but I really when I went back a second time, I recognized what repetition does when you need to learn something and how far off I was. I knew it.
Wow.
But I didn't do anything with what I learned. This was at 15. So I understood how important implementation is.
Okay.
When I was at this program, I met a gentleman who offered to mentor me as long as I read these 5 books and write a book report for him for each book.
Okay. Wow.
So I put that off for about 6 years. And then right before I applied for this interview with Wynn, I decided to read the first book I've ever read in my life at 21.
Okay.
I just talked my way through school. Sales have always been easy for me.
Yeah.
And if I could talk away and get a C or B, that considers passed, I'm good.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting moment because that first book was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
And I became obsessed with self-growth.
Wow.
I'd read any book I could. I was a slow reader, so it took a long time to read them. And I that's what made me apply for this internship, like I was talking about. So I'm coming full circle with all of this.
No, it's good.
So as we jump into this, I'm in Vegas, 21, living a mile off the strip with every other intern. I mean, it was exactly what you listeners think it was.
Would think it was is what it was.
Remember, I'm not a Christian at this point, right? So it was everything Vegas is built to be. And so it was a great experience. But the best part of the experience was when I sat down actually with Win and I told him I wanted to open up a casino. He looked at me and he said, "No, you don't." He said, "You don't even want to be in this industry."
Really?
And I'm like, oh, like talk about being deflated, right? I'm going back to graduate, going into my senior year of hotel restaurant management. And I'm just told, it's like being told by Michael Jordan that you shouldn't play basketball.
Wow.
Like, this is the guy who built Vegas is telling me, get out of this industry.
Did he give you a reason?
He said, "What are your values?" I said, "Loyalty." He said, "Do you care about family?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, then this is not where you need to be. That's not, Vegas is not built on winners. It's built on losers. It's not built on loyalty. Like that's not what built Vegas. They have loyalty points.
Right.
There's a whole other reason for them." So we realized that I remember coming home just completely deflated. And I reached out to this mentor who made me read these books. I'm like, all right, man, like now what?
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, I got this really interesting concept that we're doing. We're selling these little things called sugar gliders. Have you ever heard of them?" And I said, "I don't know what that is." He said, "Look, it's a little like kind of like a little flying squirrel is how he described it to me."
Okay.
He said, "Would you be interested in checking them out?" And I'm like, man, after 4 years of, Penn State tuition, you think you want me to tell my mom that I'm not going to
sell these things,
going in anything? I'm going to sell rats for a living. And he's like, check it out. So I checked it out and it was amazing. The way people respond to them, the way the animals are, the business behind it. I was like, I'm in.
Wait, so it's really hold on.
It's a live animal.
Called a sugar glider?
A sugar glider or a sugar bear. We're the largest distributor in the world. You're totally going to have to
post a picture of this for people because I have never heard of this.
You ever see Gremlins?
Yes.
Remember Gizmo?
Oh, yeah.
Modeled after these type of animals.
Oh, my goodness.
They're super cute, super fun, super friendly, super loyal. And we still have the business till today. It's still going. Yep. So it's just systemized and it's doing.
So I could buy one of these like right now if I wanted one?
You could.
That's amazing. Do you have one in your house?
We do.
Okay. See, look, right now, this was just worth it. My mind is, okay, there.
So anyway, so I start this crazy business that makes absolutely no sense. And this is at 24. So, and I'm getting to all your questions.
No,
you're
doing great.
At 24, at this point, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
With
is Maria in the picture yet?
No.
Okay. No.
Nope.
Okay.
With a trailer and a van full of all my stuff. Pull into my house in Atlanta because we rented a house so that I could let my employees live in the house. That was part of the pay. It was like,
wow, yeah.
You have your own housing. It's just this terrible house in South Atlanta that you shouldn't live in anyway. Oh, by the way, our squirrels have a whole other room where they live in the house. So
that's awesome.
I get down there. I'll never forget. I think it's the second day. I hear this like loud bang outside of my house, and I look out and I see my trailer rolling down the street, and I'm like, oh no, it's gonna hit a house. And I look back and I see my trailer going the other way, and it turns out it wasn't rolling down the hill. Someone stole it.
Oh,
like that was the second day in Atlanta. It was like Southern hospitality at its finest.
There you go.
And I realized, all right, this is getting real. This is a real business, and there's real consequences to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Although it's comical because it's such a silly business, the size and scale that it became was totally unexpected on my part.
Wow.
So in 2014, it was growth year after year. I think we did our first $1 million in the first 8 months. I mean, we were doing really well. Yeah. So I was this young, dumb, lost salesman with a business. And I at this point, right, so I was dating somebody, which led to getting engaged in 2014. And then I went, I'm trying to think of the actual timing of everything that happened. So we're now January, February, and March. All right, so this is when in March, like every good entrepreneur, I decided to call my accountant and say, we got to do my taxes.
Yeah.
Right? He's frustrated as every year because I'm always late. And he's like, all right, let's do it. So we do the numbers. I'm like, Mark, you're missing a ton of money. I mean, I'm talking 6 figures plus, multiple 6 figures. Wow. I said, where is he? He said, you have an inventory-based business. Go count your inventory. That's where your cash is. Like, I know it looks like you should have cash, but you've used it for inventory. I was like, all right. So I went in and counted all the inventory, and none of it was there. So it turned out a group of employees embezzled a lot of the product, would sell it on the side, would sell it for cash. And I had such bad systems that my system in business was make more sales.
Yeah.
Not run a good business, was just sell, sell, sell.
Okay.
So now the business is extremely in debt, right? In a terrible time. I don't want to tell my fiance because why would that? Yeah, that's not a good thing to tell your fiance. We're not at that point yet, I guess.
Yeah.
And what happened was within a 30-day period, found out that, went to the doctor. I go to the doctor every year for my physical in April. It's my birthday. It's kind of my birthday present to myself to make sure I'm still alive. That's April 16th. If anyone wants to send a gift, you're more than welcome to.
They can send you one on the 16th, and my birthday's 4 days later. So
perfect. We could share. We could share a birthday.
Yes, I love it. Don't share gifts though. We want separate gifts.
Exactly.
No, I'm just kidding.
Equal value too. Saves friendship. So we basically, the doctor sat me down. Was like, look, your cortisol levels are so high through the roof. And for those who don't know, cortisol is what's produced when you're stressed. They said your stress level is as high at your age as the average person. Like your baseline is where the average person peaks.
Wow.
So like your calm is still stressed. Yeah. Your body will not survive past 40 doing what you're doing.
Gosh.
So that was kind of the first reality check of like, whoa, what's going on? So professionally, I was a disaster. Physically, I was a mess. Externally, I was okay, but internally was a mess.
Yeah.
My internal kind of self-growth spirituality was empty. I didn't have time for it, right? I'm busy working.
Right.
So all I had right now was my relationship. I was engaged, and we were about to go on a trip to Greece.
Okay.
And then now it's May, right? So I'm bringing you through kind of this 30 to 45 day period.
Yeah.
It's May, the day before we leave for Greece. She gives me the ring back. It says, I can't do this.
Oh my. Okay. Well,
so took a solo trip to Greece. And I sat there, and it's fascinating because in the middle of all of this, I was invited by a priest. Actually, it was her home church's priest, right? And I was just at this point kind of dabbling in Christianity. And I guess to go back to that whole journey was, I told you I love self-growth.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was talking with a buddy of mine. The first time I brought this up was to somebody who's Mormon.
Okay.
And I said, look, I live a pretty good life. My parents did a pretty good job. We've never opened up the Bible.
Yeah.
How do you explain that? Like, how could I be living a good life if I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing? Could you, basically what I was asking was, how could you say your book is true?
Yeah.
What I didn't realize was they had a second book that I didn't even know about, right? So I was totally lost on this. I was talking about the Bible.
Yeah.
And he said, you were raised biblically, you just don't know it.
Okay.
Which was an interesting point. And looking back, the reason why I lived a decent life is because even though my parents did not bring us to church or synagogue or make us read scripture, they understood right and wrong.
Okay. Yep.
Which is kind of the essence of, I think, what Christianity does for us, is gives us a clear path of what's right or wrong.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I was like, oh, that's interesting. And that was kind of the end of that conversation. Talked to another person probably 6 months later, one of my favorite people on the planet. And I said to him, why do you read that book when I have all the answers in these books over here? And he looked at me and he had his Bible with him. He's at my house. He looks at all of my books on the wall. And he goes, why would you read all of those books if I have all the answers right here?
Wow.
And I was like, well, you don't have all the answers. He said, all right, let's try it. So we started at like 10 o'clock at night. We went all night long. I'm pulling out every book from Dale Carnegie to every little thing, every traditional self-growth book you can think of. And he's pulling verses out that explain exactly the principle that I'm teaching.
Wow.
And it made me think, wait a minute, is all this stuff kind of just regurgitated as scripture, just in more of a secular way that you could sell? So that opened my eyes to actually starting to read the Bible.
Okay.
And I'm reading it strictly for selfish purposes. I did not believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. I didn't believe in the miracles, but I'm like, you know what? I'm reading all these other books that I'm assuming these people are true people. I'm reading all this history that I'm assuming is true. Here's another book that I could read and probably get some stuff out of it on how to live a good life. Whether you believe in Jesus or not, you can't argue the principles he lived by and taught are valuable and applicable in today's day and age.
Right, right.
So anyway, and again, I apologize for keep talking in circles, but it's all points that are leading to where I am now.
Yep.
And go on this to meet this priest, and this priest his family is so wealthy he can't take the full vow of priesthood because he can't take the vow of poverty. So he just gives money to the church. Like, he doesn't need it. I mean, he's an amazing, amazing guy. The first person I could talk to in such a a strict, organized faith who was willing to answer my questions.
Okay.
So we sat down and talked. We had a question, blah, blah, blah. I was drilling him with everything of why do Catholics do this? Why do they do that? And he would give me his opinion, his answers to it, and I respected it. Didn't agree with all of it, but we were able to have a really, really good conversation. And he said, look, my dad, right?
Yeah.
So my ears are perking up as a young entrepreneur. I'm like, I'm in. Whatever you're going to say next, let's do it. He says he has a retreat every year at our family farm. Would you be interested in going? He brings all his friends out. And I'm sitting there going like, absolutely, right? I'm going to come. I'm going to network. This is going to be amazing. I can pretend to be Christian. I can do this all day long. So I show up and, dinner happens. And I didn't really ask any questions. I just said yes. So I flew up to Pittsburgh and went to this thing. And it was the most humbling experience because at dinner, I was like, I'm going to play it cool, right? I'm not going to talk about me. I'm just going to listen to what everyone else is talking about. And then when they ask me what I do, I'll be able to tell them this amazing story about how we sell these flying animals and I'm this young entrepreneur and they'll be so impressed. Well, the second it's time for me to talk, the priest comes on and says, okay, so as you all know, now is the time for silence. I was like, silence?
Wow.
It wasn't just a retreat. It was a silent retreat.
Oh, my goodness.
So I'm sitting there.
Which I'm sure is your forte, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is great for people like you and I.
You can
silence.
I'm not even taking a breath on this call or this episode, let alone anything else. So anyway, I talk with nobody.
Okay.
I do make a deal with myself that even though I don't believe everything that Catholics believe, I'm going to go with it. Meaning I'm just going to assume it is what it is. Right.
Okay.
This is no offense to the Catholic religion. It's just I didn't understand what was happening.
Yeah.
So I was just following suit. So when they would go do something or they'd go down on their knees. I'd go down on my knees. I would do whatever they're doing.
Right.
And at this point, I had no clue what prayer was. So this is in April of this March to May issue.
Yeah.
So to fast forward, day one goes by. I mean, there's guys breaking down, crying. And I'm like, what happened? Like, what, did I miss something?
What is going on?
Did someone get a message that I didn't get? And the whole thing was about prayer. And I never understood prayer.
Yeah.
Ever. Do I let someone talk back? Do I answer the question? Do I not answer the question? Like, do I just keep talking like this? Like, am I being rude? Right. Does God need to step in? I don't know.
Yeah.
So because I didn't understand it, I did what most people do, and I just didn't do it.
Right.
So this was my time where I was forced to start doing it because no one else was talking to it besides whatever was in my head. And Friday goes by, and I'm getting nothing. No answers, nothing. I'm sitting there going, man, I've been reading the Bible for the last year. I've been doing what I think needs to be done.
Yeah.
What's going on? I remember I was told by someone, look, if you want God to come in your life, you have to sometimes ask him and really mean it. So now I'm bothered, right? I'm not in a good mood. It's Saturday night. It's like I flew up here. I can't even network. Like, This is a waste of time. I'm sitting here. My knees hurt from getting up and down and up and down. And eventually Saturday night comes around and I'm like, you know what? This is the only time I talked the entire weekend. And I was verbally angry. I said, look, I came up here. I gave a weekend to this. Like, if you don't show up now, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm seeking you. Where are you?
Right.
And then I remember the fact that there were some stories I read in the Bible of people who tested God and it didn't end up well. So I made sure I put a little caveat on this one. I said, look, I want you to show up and I want you to wake me up in the middle of the night. And I want you to come through and give me a good sign of some sort. And if you give me a good sign, what I will do is there was a chapel in the house that we were staying at.
Okay.
Blessed by the Pope himself, right? This is the type of place that I was totally out of my element in. And I said, I'll go downstairs and I'll pray till you tell me what to do next.
Wow.
So I went to the bathroom, made sure there was no false alarms, anything like that. Wake up at like 3:00 in the morning, wide awake. No questions, nothing. And I see a blinking light actually over a crucifix. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's him. He's here.
Wow.
I realized it was the fire alarm. I was like, all right, that's not a good sign, right? I'm trying to fight this thing instead of just going with it. So I rolled over and I said, you know what? I said, what time is it? I looked at my phone. I had one random email that was a sales report and it was way higher than it should have been. And I laughed and I was like, all right, that is a good sign. Like, he knows he's speaking. Like, that is what I would consider a good sign.
Right.
Crucifix lighting up, that's just freaky. High sales report, I'm all in.
I love it.
So I said, all right, let's go. So I go to walk downstairs. And at that time, for some reason, right before I walk in the chapel, I'm just get this feeling of like, you got to go get your Bible. I've never had that feeling, right? Like, I bought a Bible because I was told to buy a Bible so I could read the story. I've never been encouraged internally to go get it. Whatever that was a voice I've never heard before. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let's go get it. So I went and got the Bible, went and sat down. Now, this is the part where it gets funny. So they were, and I'm going to butcher all the different terms, but basically the Eucharist was left open or unveiled the whole night, which means someone has to watch it, right?
Okay.
So I come in and this gentleman is sitting there praying to God, right? And no one else should show up for about an hour. So just out of courtesy, I go to tap him on the shoulder and let him know, like, hey, I'm here, just so you know.
Right.
Well, he must have thought I was God, right? Like, he freaked out.
Oh, my goodness.
Because he was so deep, and I didn't realize what I was interrupting.
Right.
And he's like, oh, and he starts showing me how to make sure the candles don't go out. And I'm like, no. I'm not here for any responsibility at all.
Oh, gosh.
I'm just going to be back here. I just didn't want to scare you if you turned around.
Yeah.
In turn, I scared him half to death. So I sit there and I start praying, and I look down, and there's this book that's open, and it's part of, I think it's called the Missal, which is like the monthly mass that says, here's what this mass is on this day.
Okay.
And I open the book, and it says, in order to know God, turn to John chapter 4. And I look around like, who put that there? And I had my Bible, right?
Yeah.
So I turned to John chapter 4. And this was like at the point, I didn't even know how to find John chapter 4. Right? I'm looking in the table of context, like which is it, the big 4, the little 4?
Right, yeah.
Finally get to it. And I'm reading it. And for those who don't know, it's when Jesus is talking to the woman at the well.
Yeah.
And I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. I get to 4:23, and it said, true worshipers know God in both truth and spirit.
Yeah.
And it hit me like a sack of bricks.
Wow.
I mean, I still get the chills. So anytime I see or hear that verse, because I understood logically. I believed logically.
Right.
I didn't connect emotionally, which is what I consider the spirit side. You know, I'm in truth and spirit.
Yeah.
So I came home. I was jazzed up, right? I talked to God. I got this, right? Logically, now it really makes sense. And I get the fact that I need to work on the emotional side, but I got it logically, so that's all I ever need. Came home, told my fiance, hey, this is what's going on. And I told her right when she gave me the ring back and said, the issue is not that you don't have an emotional relationship with God. She said, you don't have any emotional relationships in your life.
Wow.
So that was a surprise, right? I figured I met Jesus, time for life to get good. And it turns out it was the final linchpin to pull everything from me.
Wow.
And
okay.
So that was how I came to Christ. So
that's crazy.
2 months later, right? Because this is where we get into the business side.
Yeah.
I'm asked by a mentor of mine to come back and speak at Eagle U. Now, right now, I've lost everything. What am I doing? What am I going to teach these kids? Like, how to mess up? I got a whole last 4 months of that plus the years prior.
Yeah.
So I went there 2 months later, and that's when I met Maria. Maria was the executive director. We never crossed paths. We should have. We both been going to the program. We just never crossed paths. She was in a relationship. And my mentor, who was her boss, said, hey, you should tell her your story because there's some red flags that I don't think she's seeing.
Okay.
So I told her my story. Halfway through, we both got this epiphany or this realization. I realized that, wow, I'm really into this girl. She realized, wow, I feel really bad for this guy. So it was a different story.
Two totally different.
Exactly. So, but within a month of that, she was single.
Okay.
And within a day of that, she was not single. And then we got married quickly and all that stuff. So so that's kind of how our fast-tracked relationship came to.
Yeah.
People always ask, how did it happen so fast? I said, because neither of us were seeking each other. We were both seeking God, which is why
amazing.
when we met, it just made sense.
Yeah.
And why our relationship has always just made sense. It's not this fairy tale thing by any means. If anyone listens to our podcast, I mean, it's brutal.
Right.
It's hard to be married to anybody. And even with us having God as the center, it's still very difficult to keep that at the center. And one time right before, I'll never forget it, she sat there and she said, Matt, man, I knew marrying you was going to be hard, but I didn't realize it was going to be this hard. And I said, what do you mean? She said, you're crazy. Like, you're insane. Like, I don't understand how you keep whatever you have in your head going, and how do I keep up? And not in a capability perspective, she'll blow me out of the water. Just in the sense of like, how do I stay your partner? Like, it's hard to be your partner.
Yeah.
I said, well, it's easy. I said, there's these 9 questions I ask myself every single Sunday. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, no. I said, remember I told you about that time when right before we met, I went through the kind of this, I call it my heartbreak or heartbeat. I'm sorry. And she's like, yeah. She's like, well, I kind of got these 9 questions put on my heart that looking back on it, I know where they came from, but prior, I didn't know where they were coming from.
Yeah.
And I said it was just a way to structure my thoughts so I can make it from Sunday to Sunday.
Wow.
Because thinking about anything further than a week was too overwhelming.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, I was so lost in everything. And she's like, oh, that's interesting. She's like, can I see them? So I showed her my composition books, right? I was like the only person over 8 who was excited about back to school sales, right? Because I'd go and take all the composition books before the kids could.
Yeah, I love it.
And she's like, this is like chicken scratch. I can't understand this. She's like, let me make this look nice. So she took it, designed it, made it look nice, took those 9 questions and formatted it beautifully. And we started using it together.
Really? Okay.
And we called it, I don't even know if we called it anything at that point. It was just like our thing. This is what we did.
Yeah.
Eventually, a couple buddies saw it, asked if I could teach to their businesses. I said, sure, absolutely. Fast forward, that was the beginning of the LP, which is the basis of LifePulse, which is the system we teach in LifePulse.
That's crazy.
And like I said, it's definitely, that was the trigger. Eventually, a Fortune 500 company got a copy of the book, called me and said, hey, your book solves our biggest personnel problem. Can we talk about this? I said, yes, right? Remember I told you, stupid serial entrepreneur? This whole thing, it comes around in a circle, right? I said, sure. They said, can you come tell us how to use it? I went in for a couple of days. We did it.
Yeah.
No charge, right? I enjoy talking about this stuff.
Right.
And they said, wow, we would have paid you a ton of money for this.
Oh my goodness.
And I looked and I said, well, you still can. They said, no, we're good. I said, is this a problem that like only you have? They said, no, this is the problem that everybody has and everyone's going to have.
Wow.
I said, so you think there's a business here? They said, we assumed this was a business.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, oh, well, sure. So I called Maria and was like, hey, we need to start a business right now. This is your fault because you said I'm doing too many things. We're going to get it going. And that's literally how LifePulse started. So we started with that, went from there to the Air Force, Twitter, Google, every startup that you could think of, different industries, no matter what it is, it's because we work on the root of the person.
Yeah.
And it's all about bringing intentionality back to life, which I think is what Jesus's message to us, not necessarily on what's going to happen before, after, during, all the great stories that he told, all that stuff. But genuinely, the only way to be, I think, a true Christian and a Christian that other people would see and go, I want what they have, which I do think is our job, is we should be a model to other people, is to live a life of intentionality.
Yeah. So the 9 questions, I mean, so that's what LifePulse is all based off of. Can you give us just like an example of like what one of the questions are, or how does it work? Or
so one of the questions, like and they're not like crazy questions. They're not like these questions, like, what are you grateful for this week?
Okay.
And part of it is asking the question, getting the answer, but more importantly, having it in a weekly structure so that you get a chance to reset every week.
Okay.
That was the biggest thing. I was the last to know about all those things happening in my life.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right, yeah.
My employees knew they were stealing. My fiance knew she was leaving me. I mean, I was the last to find out.
Right.
But yet when I look back, there were so many signs that if I was just paying attention, or if I was just tweaking what I'm doing on a weekly basis, I would probably have less regrets.
Okay. Yeah.
Now I needed to go through all that to learn this, but now every single week, Maria and I sit down and go through this planner.
Okay.
And what that led to is different coaching options, different consulting we do, different speaking we do, which then led us to write the book, Motivate the Unmotivated, which became an international bestseller right away. And it's just because this concept of motivating ourselves and others is not difficult.
Yeah.
It just takes intentionality. And our system shows how to be intentional about whatever it is you're trying to do.
Well, and let's talk about that for a minute, Matt, because people, I mean, intentionality is huge because I think a lot of people listening, myself included, we start off with the best intentions. Like, we want to do this, I want to go here, or this is where my end goal is, but we don't know how to get from point A to point Z or how to stay motivated. You might get a few steps, but then we fizzle out. So just talk to us about that. What does that look like? What would you suggest?
Yeah. So the key to getting from A to Z is, if you're talking 26 letters in the alphabet, is stepping from A to B.
Yeah.
And then figuring out what's going on. Then B to C and figuring out what's going on. We worked with a client who designs video games, a big video game company. And I was talking with their creative team, and they drew this picture that was so fascinating to how we deal with life. So I'll try to draw it through the microphone.
Yeah.
But basically is when people develop, when a customer sees a video game that was developed, we see it as there was an idea and then here's the end result, like a straight line.
Right.
Now the developer sees it as this like mad genius, web of how they came from A to B or A to Z in your case.
Yeah.
When in reality, the most efficient and effective way that we had them now do it is you go from A to Z by kind of going straight to the left. It's like a pendulum.
Okay, yep.
So you go far left, then far right, then a little bit less left, then a little bit less right, then a little. And you kind of come in to an angle where you're trying different things. And I think that's how God has us work, is we need to step and then adapt. Step and then adapt versus run 1,000,000 miles an hour
Right.
until you are burnt out
Right.
and realize not only are you not where you want to be, but you went in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the biggest thing and the only thing that humans have over other species to survive is the ability to adapt.
Okay.
But yet we don't use that when it comes to setting goals. So what we do is we break down our big goals into smaller, achievable goals.
Yeah.
So if we have a result-based goal, let's just go with losing weight, because I guarantee you everyone's had that or has that.
Absolutely.
So if you're trying to lose weight, we go with the number. What's it say on the scale? Well, that's what we call a result-based goal.
Okay.
And that's great. However, results have a lot of variables to it. So for example, if my goal is to lose 10 pounds, right, and I go and work out like crazy, and I gain some muscle, I might not lose 10 pounds. I might even gain 2 pounds.
Yeah.
But if I lose 10 pounds of fat and gain 12 pounds of muscle, is that a win? I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the results may vary, right? We've always heard that.
Absolutely.
Same with life. So instead, we take the result-based goal and we break it down into 2 different types of goals. The first is an action-based goal.
Okay.
Like I said, nothing we do is complicated. We're very simple in the terms we use.
I like it.
Action-based goals are goals that are based on your actions, the choice to do. So instead of a goal to go to the gym or to lose the weight, it's to go to the gym 3 times a week.
Okay.
I don't care if you even work out.
Right.
You go to like when I go to the gym, I'm usually on my headphones, taking a phone call, walking around the weights for 30 minutes, and then I leave. Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of my exercise. So that's the action-based goal. Then there's a time-based goal.
Okay.
Which is, look, I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk. Now, you might not feel good.
Yeah.
So that walk might be for 10 steps for 30 minutes. But you're dedicating the time to the actions that need to be done.
That's good.
So we break it down to that because that's all based on choice.
Yeah.
And if you can't take advantage of this thing called free will that we were given, then you're never going to understand or experience, I think, the fruits of what life can do.
Yeah.
And free will is different than discipline. It's a big mistake I think a lot of people make. Free will is the fact that we have the ability to choose to be undisciplined whenever we want.
Yeah.
Or be disciplined.
Yeah.
And choice is a big deal.
Okay, I love it. So talk about for a minute motivation, because these all kind of go hand in hand.
Exactly.
But sometimes, like I said, we might get a couple steps in, or like, hey, I've been going to the gym 3 times a week, but I'm not seeing results, or it's different. And so how do you keep motivated when maybe the results aren't quite the way you want them to be?
Yes. So big thing to recognize when it comes to motivation is not a character trait.
Okay.
It's a state of mind.
Okay.
And because of that, I can change it.
Yeah, that's good.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're sitting there, oh, my kid's just not motivated, I go, first, you got to stop that.
Yeah, okay.
You're causing an issue if you're categorizing them as motivated or unmotivated.
Yeah.
They're just not unmotivated right now. Are you surprised that your kid's not motivated to go to history class? Are you surprised that your kid's not motivated to take the trash out? Like, that doesn't make someone, that's just a choice. They don't like it.
Right.
So in order to keep yourself motivated, there's a couple things that we do, right?
Okay,
when we come in and we work with companies, we do a program called Motivation Management, where we will work with an upper level management or a manager on how they can motivate their team, but not in a way that other management programs are. Most manager programs are, if you're the manager, Sarah, here's how you get your team to do stuff.
Right.
That's not what we teach. We teach, here's how you get your team to want to do the task.
That's huge.
And the way we do it is we tie it all to what we call PVTT.
Okay.
That's personal value tied to task.
Okay.
So everything you do, if there's personal value behind it, it's no longer mundane.
Right.
No matter what it is.
Right.
So let's talk about a little task that I like to call reading the Bible. Something I think most Christians could do more of.
Yeah.
Or any of would be nice.
Right.
Right. And I say that half jokingly because it's such a simple thing to do, but yet we all tend to put it on the back burner. A lot of us can.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll get to it later. It's like, wait. Like, Jesus was sitting in the room right now. Would you get to him later?
Right. That's good.
He's here.
Yeah.
Like, whether you see him or not.
Yeah.
So a task like that, when you put personal value behind it, I want to do it. I don't have to do it. It's not a chore anymore.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So how do we figure out this PVTT? There's different assessments that we do.
Okay.
Everything from finding out what's motivating individuals to what's blocking them.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for yourself is creating habits and routines.
Okay.
If you have an issue, after a while, if you create a habit of going to the gym and you don't go to the gym, you will feel differently.
Right. Right.
So that's why I said, let's work on your actions, because actions lead to habits.
Yeah.
Not beliefs, not desires, not hopes, not dreams.
Right.
They don't lead to the results. The actions will lead to that.
That's good.
So that's what I would suggest is focus on the actions you're taking, right? If you are trying to lose weight and you've had, I don't know, McDonald's breakfast in the morning followed by, 14 Chick-fil-A nuggets for lunch.
Right.
that
You're
next
not-
action, just
Yeah.
don't worry about what you've done. Take that next action. Have a salad for dinner.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what we realize. We get thrown off track because we weren't perfect.
Right.
And therefore we throw the whole goal out. And instead what we teach is, no, you're going to not be perfect.
Yeah.
So let's find an easy way to get back on track.
Yeah.
So that's how we focus on each individual task.
That's huge. So just a couple other questions here, Matt. So we've been in Corona time, okay? Like pandemic. I feel like everybody's productivity and motivation really got hit, especially early on. So what would you say to people now that are like, okay, 2020, I started this year with all these goals, these intentions, all these things, started off strong, and then Corona hit and it was a wash. Right. And now we're at the end of the year. I want to finish strong. And hopefully that would be our desire that we want to. There's still time, 2020. I mean, every day is a gift, right? We have the choice of what we're going to do with it. What would you say to somebody going like, what do I do? Like, where do I just kind of restart? How do I get back motivated? What would be a first step that you would recommend?
Oh my goodness. There's so many things I want to talk about. So let's real quick talk about what happened to us with Corona.
Yeah,
right.
Please do.
What Corona did to us, outside the fact that it's just a nasty virus, right? Like
right.
That stuff, I'm not smart enough to talk about that. But what Corona did to us was it did not take away our ability or our discipline.
Yeah.
It took away our structure and our rhythms.
Yes.
That's
huge.
it.
Yeah.
So what happens is if you don't have structure leads to freedom and rhythm leads to peace.
Okay. That's good, Matt.
You can look that up biblically. You can look that up and you can just experience that in your life.
Can you just say that one more time? That's really good.
I got to remember what it is. Structure brings freedom and rhythm brings peace.
Yes. Yep.
And the reason why I say that is because that's what we do with this LP, right? This stupid pen and paper planner that's built this business that goes all over the world teaching it is because it gives you structure and it gives you a rhythm to function. Our whole world is based, whether you believe in creationism or not,
right,
on rhythms and systems and cycles.
Yes.
It's consistent. So one of those cycles is this thing that we call a year. Which drives me nuts that people wait. I always love it when people are like, oh, what do? You do planning? I can't wait to bring you in January. I'm like, we charge 7 times as much in January. Why? Because people think you have to plan in January.
Right.
Or you have to start, oh, well, sorry, it's already February. I can't do anything for this year.
Yeah.
We start whenever you want. If right now you feel you're able to start your goal again, this is day one.
Yeah. Love it.
Start from day one and don't think you need to be perfect. Anytime you need to get back on the wagon, start back over. It's like looking at a little kid who can't walk yet, it's just learning how to walk, and they fall down. You're like, no, get back on your feet. No, let them crawl for a bit.
Right.
And then let them get back on their feet.
Yeah.
I mean, we put so much pressure on us to be perfect with them.
That's
so the reason I bring the year up is because right now I told you I have this new book that's coming out. It's called The Intentional Week.
Okay.
And it's not out yet. It's just been on my heart to do. And it's all about living the 6 days between Sundays, right?
Love it.
I talked about how the week is, I think, the most valuable measurement of time to live your life by. And the line that I always use is that you're not going to change your life in a week, but if you change the weeks in your year, will change your life.
That's good.
That's what we focus on. And I'm doing research right now, figuring out what's the point of the week. So here's what I found. And this is a chapter that's in the book. A year, there's value in primitive people knowing what a year is, right?
Okay,
when the leaves come back, it's cycling again. It's happening again. In Egypt, a lot of the people who had power were ones who were able to predict when the Nile was going to flood.
Yeah.
Turns out that's not as difficult when you have thousands of years of knowledge. But when you don't have thousands of years, to be able to say, oh, by the way, the water's coming, you get power over the people.
Yeah.
Right? So years have value. Days have value, right? Days are the space between the nights. So days and years, and even months, because months, they were able to tell by the way the moon was sitting in the sky that it would cycle back around.
Okay.
A week is an artificial set of time that has no survival benefit whatsoever besides what our society has told us.
Okay, that's interesting.
So why was it created?
Yeah.
Right? So it was created, what I'm finding right now, there's only one of two sources. Number one is probably it started due to the Sabbath.
Okay. Yep.
Right? That was kind of the start or end of the week on a Saturday or a Sunday, right? It started on Saturday. Now, Saturday didn't exist when this concept was there. So how did they handle it? They named all the days, 7 of them based on the planets they knew about at the time.
Yeah.
So what happens is the week has no true survivalist pattern for a hunter and gatherer.
Okay.
But in the world we live in right now, the reason the week became so universally used is because of commerce. It was the next cycle of the market.
Okay.
So it would cycle through on a weekly basis. So therefore, our lives are based weekly.
Yeah.
due to the way that humans and society has made them.
Okay.
Right?
That's interesting.
So it's just a fascinating kind of cycle that these cycles that we think that we have to live within
Right.
have nothing to do with what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
A year does not do much for us right now when we live in homes that when it's hot out, we just turn on the air conditioning.
Right.
And when it's cold out, we just turn it down. And when we need food, we go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
So yet we're still trapped by these kind of primitive models, although we don't need them anymore. So basically, if you're sitting there going, well, I just need to get started again. How do I do it? How do I do it? How do I do it? And unfortunately, the answer is you just get started.
Yeah. Okay.
Today.
Okay.
And if you have a goal to go 100 days healthy and you get 50 and you stop, great.
Yeah.
So you missed one.
Right.
Go back to 51 the next day.
That's good.
And we aim for perfection and we'll never get it.
Yeah. I think that's such key, Matt, because we do. It's like if we start something and we mess up, I'm on day 2, I ate a chocolate bar and I said I wasn't going to eat, we're like, oh man, now I have to quit the whole, I got to start over.
Give me the Oreos.
And I think that's why you're so key on like the action and you're changing the intention, like you said, of like, if we can get that in the right place, then we can continue to move forward. And then just faith and relate and our whole world, but with Jesus, we're able to do more of what he's created us to do when we can change these pathways and our intentions behind it.
100%. And it goes with why did religion exist in the beginning was to help people get into a rhythm of getting closer to God.
Yeah.
Now it's gotten perverted over the years, no question about it.
Right.
And where the religion, in my opinion, is not as important as the relationship.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or
Absolutely.
form. So my question is not how religious are you, but how's your relationship?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's probably very similar to the other relationships in your life.
Right.
If not overly mistreated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't mean mistreated in the sense that you're being mean to Jesus or you're being mean to God, but it's the fact that you're not giving the time it deserves.
Yeah. That's
and
huge.
I always tell people, I say a simple prescription for that is 20 minutes a day in the Word.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need. You don't need much more. Now, there's times where I'll go 20 minutes and then I'll go an hour.
Right.
And there's times where I'm looking at my clock every minute for 20 minutes because I just cannot connect because my head's not there. I'm not there. I'm reading numbers again and I'm just going through whose son is who. And,
it gets a little lost in there.
But in reality, it's sitting there praying to God and making sure he's going to help you see what he's trying to tell you.
Yes, absolutely. And if you don't spend the time and you don't just get disciplined to do it, then you won't.
You don't have to be good at it. I think people think they need to like they're stuck in this concept of like, well, I just don't get where to start.
Yeah.
Try page 1.
Yeah.
And if you don't know where to start in the Bible, what I was told, which absolutely was helpful, was go to the Gospels, go through those 4.
Yes. Yep.
And I literally just did a podcast a couple weeks ago, and they asked, what are my favorite books?
Yeah.
This is not a Christian podcast, but I don't edit myself much no matter where I am.
Right.
And I said, honestly, the first book is the Bible. And I said, but not for why you probably get that answer if you ever get that answer. I said, but if you're not a believer, whether you are or not, I don't care.
Yeah.
And you don't read the Gospels to understand how to take care of people, and you don't read Acts as to how to create a movement in your business or have a following, then you are missing out on some key information on how to be successful in life. Forget what you believe.
Yeah.
The content is so rich, so good. Yeah. Those books alone will change the way you live your life. The rest are great. The rest have a lot of content, a lot of lessons to be learned, but it's also a lot of backstory to explain to me how we should be living today.
Yeah. That's good.
There's a lot of value in it.
Yeah. Matt, if somebody's interested in the planner, can anybody purchase this or does it have to be through a company or how?
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about
you
this.
go to our website, LifePulseInc.com /MyLP. That's how you get the planner. You can get the book, LifePulseInc.com /MTheU, which is Motivate the Unmotivated.
Okay.
You can get the book there, or you can just reach out to us, info@LifePulseInc.com.
Okay.
If you ever have any questions or you think this is something that's decent for you, yourself, your family, your company.
Yeah.
We work with everybody.
Yeah.
No matter how big or small, I don't care. I mean, we've worked with big companies like a Google, but I love working with people I can actually make more of an impact on.
Yeah.
And have fun with that.
I love it. I want to talk about for a minute, you and Maria, and we're going to have Maria on actually in a few weeks, which I'm really excited about that.
Better.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that we'll like it the same. Just be different, which will be good. I've seen her, both of you kind of post about these life dates. Is that what you call them?
Yes.
Can you just real quick, because I think that's huge for anybody listening who is married or in a relationship. What is that? What do you do?
It is what saves our marriage every 30 days, right? And those who are married, you understand. It's like you wonder how you can get to the next day sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? Like I love this person, but like I don't like you.
Right.
At all.
Right.
And that is very common. And And I think there's more times that we actually don't like each other than we actually like each other, right? We always love each other, but when if you were to put like a rating every day,
Yeah.
it's hard to live with people. Then you throw kids in the mix, you throw business in the mix, you throw money in the mix, you throw
tough.
It's crazy. So anyway, I read a blog one time about somebody who he wrote this blog, and I don't remember their name, and it's driving me nuts. And I can't find it. So if anyone hears this and knows what it is, please email us and tell us.
Yeah.
But it was he was writing a blog for entrepreneurs' wives.
Okay.
To tell them what's going on in your guy's head, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, as a husband to a wife, so please don't, if you're listening to this, you're bothered that I said that, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
But recognize the fact that this guy was talking about what it's like to be married to an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And one of the blogs was he and his wife went on this thing that was called a life dinner. And I said, wow, that's interesting. And there's certain rules to it.
Okay.
So we took those rules and we've kind of incorporated our own little piece of it as well. And you can find a copy of it on our website also.
Okay.
If you wanted to see the outline of it in our personal resources tab. And you go in to a dinner every 30 days. You pick the date.
Yep.
It's a celebration. You're
Okay.
celebrating life.
That's cool.
So here's what happens. We get each other a gift.
Okay.
We get each other a card. I usually will get her a candle. I used to get her flowers. She doesn't like flowers, but I'd get her something a little extra just because that's what I felt we should do.
Yeah.
We get a babysitter. There was no time limit. There was no dollar limit. There was no diet.
Okay.
Like, we go for a great dinner every 30 days. And we get there, we talk, we don't ask for anything. Normally, when you sit there, you're like, all right, where's the menu? Can I get a drink? Can I get the bill? Can we get this? You let the waiter dictate the speed.
Okay.
And normally they will drag it out.
Yeah.
Just because they don't know what to do, right?
Right.
So we show up to the restaurant with gifts in hand. Always bring them. Don't open them at home. Bring them to the restaurant with you. It makes the whole thing a lot easier because I'm going to explain what we're going to talk about, and gifts make you happier as we get real. So
I love it.
So we give each other the gift, and that tends to ease whatever previous argument was happening in the car on the way there.
Yep.
It's like when you go to church, right? And you're ripping each other's heads apart before you go to church.
I love the realness. This is true.
And then we get there and we open up each other's gifts. And when you open up a gift, there's just I don't care whether you like gifts or not. It just puts you at ease. Like I don't even care if it's a bad gift. Now these gifts have ranged from, hey, here's a card. Yeah. Because life's crazy. All the way to, hey, here's a new car.
Oh, wow.
Like it could be, there's no price issue.
Will, are you listening to this? No,
there's no price issue on it.
Okay.
When you get married, it gets funny because you're sharing the money that you're spending anyway.
Right.
But it gives that extra thought of what it is that you want. Now, look, there's a lot of times that I bomb the gift. It's not about the actual gift.
Yeah.
It's about the giving. It's about getting it. So anyway, so you give each other the gift, and then you go into the conversation. The conversation works like this. Once you walk into the restaurant, I get Maria's phone. Maria gets my phone.
Okay.
There are no phones allowed.
Yeah, that's good.
Anything that is not said at this life dinner is not allowed to be brought up again.
Okay.
Meaning if there's an issue, we talk about it.
Yeah.
You're also not allowed to solve any problems.
Okay.
Which is huge, right? So all these rules are necessary because it forces the conversation in a safer place than at the kitchen table or while someone's doing dishes or while someone's cleaning up a poopy diaper. You know what I mean? Like, it's the most inopportune times when we tend to deal with the conflict.
Yeah.
It gives a place where we can say, all right, you know what? We're going to talk about that next week.
Okay.
And we get to talk about it in a time where she'll say something to me. And guys, we tend to be the ones that are, let me explain myself. Let me fix it. Yeah. Doesn't happen. Just bothers me the way you load the dishes. I mean, it's been everything like that to we've had times where like, they've had to come to our table to make sure we were okay because it got heated. We were talking about adoption and Maria felt called and I said, we're not called just yet.
Yeah.
And she was bothered by that. And I was bothered that she was bothered and it got heated. I mean, that's not a small topic to talk about. And when do you find time in your busy life to have a serious conversation about that if you're not both on the same page? And then what tends to happen is somebody just gets steamrolled.
Yes.
And now you got a kid at your house.
Right.
Now, like, I know people are like, well, how could you I've seen couples fall into traps worse than that.
Yes. Yeah.
And even things like, hey, I think we should move. I don't think we should move. Hey, I found a house. Okay, fine, whatever. It's not worth the argument. Let's just move.
Right.
That's not a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And I learned that from my last relationship because she randomly left. And I don't want Maria to randomly leave.
Right.
So anyway, so we have the rule. You can't solve it, which makes it safe. We have the conversation. We have dessert. We have drinks. We hang out. It's lovely. It's fun. Now, here's what happens. If you're having a rough time in your relationship, the first few of these are going to be very difficult. That doesn't mean don't do them.
Yeah.
Do them.
Yeah.
It's worth it because after about 2 or 3, there's not that much to complain about.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are like, what's wrong with your marriage? Everything's wrong. This. Okay, cool. Give me a list.
Yeah.
And there's usually like 2 or 3 things that if they were change,
Right.
we'd be okay.
Yeah.
And it's like dumb things, like pick your socks up. Like,
Right.
like it's not major things. It's just things that I don't know is really bothering her.
Yeah.
Like I get that it bothers you, but like bothers you enough to like not be able to sleep at night. Yeah.
Right.
Like I haven't slept because every time this happens, you do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Stupidest things in the world we've been able to solve very quickly. And we've had couples come to us, it saved their marriage.
Wow.
People were thinking about people were in the process of filing for divorce
Wow.
and did this and stopped.
That's amazing.
And I'm not saying, because again, I told you, I found this somewhere else,
Yeah.
right? We tweaked it a little bit.
Yeah.
But what I really want you to recognize is it just gives a safe place to go to. And I know there's times where, and you know Natalie's story, we have a daughter who has medical issues. So there's times where we're in the hospital for 30 days, right?
Yeah.
So how do you find time for it? I mean, we've done it in hospital cafeterias.
Okay.
We've done it at home during COVID, right?
Yeah.
We do it once a month. And what happens is if we miss it, we feel it.
Okay. That makes sense.
So it goes back to what we were talking about with achieving goals is consistency is key. Because
Yeah.
when you don't do it, it's like, wait, something's off.
Right. Right.
Oh, we didn't do our light day. Oh, that's why everything you do makes me want to, go nuts.
Yes.
It's not because you're doing anything different. It's that we haven't had a chance to express ourselves. And this is what buildup feels like.
Yeah.
But people, like I said, back with my stress levels, when your body, humans adapt.
Yeah.
And your body will adapt to whatever pressure you put it in. So if you're used to holding things in, you get better at holding things in.
Right.
But you don't get better at handling it.
Okay.
So it makes things dangerous. So that's what a life date is. And
That's
it
really cool.
saved our marriage. We have friends do it with friends.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be your significant other.
Yeah. Just somebody
But
important.
it just gives a safe place to have a conversation that needs to happen.
Yeah. I think that's great. Do you
clear the
have
air.
like a set date? Like it's always the
It's always
23rd of them?
the first Tuesday of a month.
Okay.
We
And
got
that's
one
probably
coming
helped
up.
just put it down. You know it's there. Block it off.
Now look, you can move it, but you don't skip it.
Yeah.
There's a big
Yeah.
difference. You move it. Okay, we're going to do it on Wednesday instead. Is that good? Yeah, fine. We'll do it on Wednesday.
Okay. I love it. And you said you have that on the
Yeah,
on
if you
your
go
website.
onto our website under the personal resources tab, you can access all this stuff.
Okay, that's amazing. Matt, is there anything else you want to talk about that we didn't get to talk about? Anything else you want to share with us about?
No, I love what you're doing. I love this podcast. I
Well-
think it's awesome that you're pushing through with this. One thing I do always offer whenever we have a good conversation.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good conversation, I don't offer it.
Okay, good. So this is a good conversation.
Exactly. So
Okay, great.
if you ever hear me on another podcast and I don't put this out there,
You know what
something happened. But basically, any listener, I feel like people listen to podcasts. It's like, I just want to do something.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm a big believer of learning with implementation in mind.
Right.
Like
That's good.
when I learned something, that's why I was never good at school because I couldn't learn math and I couldn't connect how to implement. They don't teach us how to learn. They teach us how to memorize.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
So now when I learn, it's okay, how does that impact me? How can I actually use this information?
It's good.
So what we'll do is we'll put together this thing that we'll call a pod gift. So if
Okay.
you go to lifepulseinc.com/pod gift, we will put a special offer out there.
Okay.
We'll compile a bunch of our stuff at a fraction of the price of what we normally do it as.
That's awesome.
And it's strictly because I want people who are listening to go, hey, I got to take action.
Yeah.
So. Look, if you like what we're talking about, I don't even care if are you selling these mugs? You should sell these. I love these mugs. Anyway,
We're not selling
you-
them yet, but we should.
You should sell the mugs. But just taking something from this and taking action to do
Yeah.
something about it.
Yeah.
That's what this gift will be. Is it will have structure. There'll be some free stuffs to it. So if you don't want to get the upper end stuff, we can definitely give you some information to start working on.
Okay.
But I love when people hear something and take action because I
Yeah.
think that's the missing piece. Knowledge right now, knowledge is worthless. I joke about it. I don't know if you watch Sesame with your kids, but Natalie was like on a big Sesame kick.
Yes.
And Sesame back in the day was the puppets would ask adults for advice.
Yes.
Doesn't happen anymore. Now the adults are actually like goons. Like they're goofy.
I haven't watched it
It's
recently.
Like, it's like
Okay.
stupid adults. Like they're so goofy.
Really?
They don't actually do what they used to do where they were
Wow.
they were the wisdom.
Yeah.
Well, now Elmo in Elmo's world, he says, "What do we do when we need to look, or we don't know something?" And then Smarty comes out,
Okay. Yeah.
his smartphone,
Yep.
Elmo's smartphone, who's 3. Elmo's 3. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Okay. There. See, so
You
much
gotta learn
information.
something. Anyway, and he says, "What do we do when we don't know something?" And he says, "We look it up." And I make the joke of the math teacher who used to sit there and go, "You're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket."
Yeah.
Well, we do now,
Right.
right?
Right.
So knowledge is at our fingertips. Wisdom is what we want, though. So wisdom is using the correct knowledge at the correct time in the correct way.
Yeah.
And we don't know how to do that anymore because
good,
we
Matt.
don't take action. So if you're learning all the stuff in the world and doing nothing with it,
Yeah.
it's a waste of time to learn it.
Yeah.
Because I can Google it just as fast as you can remember it.
Right.
So how are we implementing whatever it is you're learning?
I love it. Well, thank you very much for offering everybody something special. I hope that you guys will go take advantage of that. And just like we said, I told you, Matt, before we started, we've had a saying that is just do something around here. Just take whatever the next step is, whatever God is calling you to, move the needle forward just a little bit. And sometimes we don't know, like those little small steps might seem like, hey, it was just this today, or I just chose this salad today, or I just showed up to the gym. But over time, the results are huge.
100%.
So that's great. Okay, Matt, if people want to follow you personally, can they find you on social media, or where do you LifePulse? Or
you can find me on social media. Be warned, I don't know how to spell very well, so be okay with whatever spelling error comes with whatever post.
We'll have grace.
If you find us on our business side, the handle's at LifePulse Inc. on all platforms.
Okay.
You can find me directly on Facebook and Instagram. I don't even know what my handles are for myself.
Okay. We'll find them and link them.
I think Instagram, it's Matt87 Granados.
Okay.
Full name. And then I think it's the same. I think I might have gone through and done it the same for all of them. But at LifePulse Inc. is where you'll get the good content. If you want pictures of my daughter and my son, find the personal ones. But if you want the content, if you want the implementation of what we do, find us on all social media platforms.
Awesome. And real quick, you and Maria do have a podcast. You alluded to it. But tell people where they can find that, because you guys listening need to go. If you're in a relationship, you need to go check it. It is so real and it's so good, and I love it.
So it's called Relationship. You can find it on iTunes or any other platform, Spotify, all that stuff. And the whole basis of it was Maria wanted to do a podcast.
Okay.
I said, okay. I said, what do you want to do it on? She said, I don't know. I said, well, look, we kind of came to this together, and this is what we do with ideas. She throws it up, and it's like a volley back and forth. So the concept of it is we deal with whatever issue we're currently dealing with live, and we're not allowed to edit it. So what you get is everything you need. So this last episode we just did, you got to hear what it sounds like when our dog barks unexpectedly, and we get to get nice and angry at it. And the microphones keep going, and we don't edit it, and it makes it real. Makes it very raw, and that's what we go for. Is look, these relationships. It's not about the shiny good picture you took on Facebook. It's about what happens between the walls when no one else is looking, and it's really hard. And the world is making it harder and harder and harder. And the one thing that we do is these LPs, this system that we teach. She does hers, I do mine, and we come together every single Sunday.
Okay.
And that's how we stay on track with everything from her business, right? She's got her own boutique she owns.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I have a couple businesses. We have a couple businesses together. We have nonprofits we work on.
Yeah.
We have a daughter with some major medical issues that keeps us very busy with doctors and therapy.
Yeah.
We have a son that we have to remember that we have sometimes, right? We joke. We love Zach. But we sit there and people go, how do you guys do it all? I go, first off, if you were to live with us for a week, you'd feel very uncomfortable because it's very hard.
Yeah.
It's not all fun and roses.
Right.
As a second off, we know what we're doing every single Sunday. And when life throws us off, we have a good track to get back on.
Yeah. That's huge.
And that's the key to the podcast that we show people. And the reason why I think couples love listening to it is because they get to hear both sides, men and women.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of I told you so.
Right.
But on both sides, which reveals the fact that we're all wrong.
Yeah, that's good. We're all wrong. I love it. That's good. Okay, Matt, so to end, we always ask everybody who's on the show. The show is called Now That's Something Good. Awesome. So do you have anything good? It can be anything, like something good, one last good thing to share with those listening. Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, so the one thing that just, I don't know why it pops into my head, but in times of scarcity, the ability to be generous just pops into my head in the sense that in a time like this, it's the end of the last quarter of 2020.
Yeah.
Thank God, right? We all want this year to be done. But we all might be struggling in one way, shape, or form. And the one thing that Maria and I made very big point during all this is no matter what happens, we're not going to lose our generosity. And we're not going to get in a scarcity mindset. Yeah. Right now, a lot of people are scared. They're living out of fear. God doesn't talk to us in those terms.
Right.
We use this acronym, and one of the things I teach everybody, not just religious people, called FOG.
Okay.
Clear the fog. And it came from a biblical principles actually, that God doesn't speak to us in these terms. And fogs, when you see fog, it's hard to see.
Yeah.
It's fear, obligation, and guilt.
Wow. Okay.
And if you're being pushed to do something because of any of those three, I promise you that's not him talking to you.
So
absolutely. When it comes to scarcity, when it comes to what are we going to do with this virus, this does not mean don't take it seriously.
Right.
It means don't act out of fear, obligation, or guilt, but instead take a step back, think about it, have faith, and move forward with it. So Don't let your generosity get hit by fear.
Yeah.
It does not end well.
That's definitely something good, Matt. Thank you. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today, Matt. Appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Wow, there were so many good things in that conversation with Matt. I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope you got a lot out of it as well. Little known Sarah fact. I totally geek out on all things productivity, leadership, and goal setting. I could have talked with Matt for many, many more hours about all of that. I hope that you listening in, I hope it motivated and encouraged you to take some steps forward. I know my conversation with him got me thinking on a few things I need to change up in my own life, more things I need to move towards action steps to keep meeting my goals. Make sure you go check out LifePulseInc.com/podgift to see a special offer on tools that can help you stay motivated and to reach your goals, whatever they might be. You can find that link and a whole bunch of other things that Matt shared inside our show notes. So make sure to check those out. Hey, we would love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching Now That's Something Good podcast, or send us an email anytime at podcast@sarahgood.com. Thank you so much for joining in on our conversations each week. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We are so glad you are here. We've got a lot of great episodes, so make sure to go check back out the rest of the season. We hope you have a great week. Go find and share a little something good today.